Hey there, it's Amelia, and in this video I'm going to show you how to edit PSD files in Photopea. Now Photopea, or Photopea as I like to call it, is a free tool. To access it, just go to photopea.com in your browser, and this is typically the first screen that you'll see. If you click About, you'll see some information about the tool, which is totally free. It's an advanced image editor, and you could edit PSD files as well as all these other files which it supports. You can create a new image or open existing files from your computer. If you do need to see this information, it's available. Otherwise, click the X, and then all you have to do is click Open from Computer and then select your file. Now I went ahead and opened up this file, which is a book cover for one of my coloring and activity books. I recently made some significant changes to the inside of the book, so I wanted to make some changes to the cover and some enhancements, and also explain a little bit more in the subtitle that I had now added not only letter tracing but also word tracing. So this is the before cover and this is the after cover. So let me show you what I did. So first, if you're not too familiar with Photopea, it's a great alternative if you don't have Adobe Photoshop. And providing you have source files for the images that you're editing, you can just go over here on the right and you'll see the different layers. Now I went ahead and renamed a lot of these layers because it will just say like layer 1, layer 2, and then it's hard to identify them. My illustrator created the original illustration for this book cover, and I usually purchase the PSD files because sometimes over time you need to make some changes, and it's a lot more inexpensive if you just have to move 1 or 2 elements around on your book cover, that you can do it yourself in tools like Photopea. So if I go ahead and click on some of these layers, you're going to see the layer over here on the image. Now these are all text elements, and if I move down, you'll see some other text elements here. This is the ABC image, and so on and so forth. So the first thing I want to do is make some changes to this large crayon image. So first I have to either find it in the layers or by clicking, and sometimes it may not let you click depending on what you have selected here. Just make sure that you have the Move tool selected. At times, if you're selecting a portion of your image, you might need the Selection tool. And clicking on the different sections of my image, I can get to the different layers. Now, if you click and you can't get to a particular layer, that's when you would have to go over here on the right and look and find the actual layer. So here's the Color and Learn layer here, but there's also the actual crayon, which does not have a descriptive name, so I'm just going to keep clicking until I find it, which may be the case if you have not created the original PSD file. So what I would recommend is to easily locate layers to rename it to something descriptive. So for example, this is this blue star here, and if you just double click on a layer, you can just rename it to whatever you want to call it. And then just click outside of that layer. Now this is a hidden layer, and if you see this little eye symbol, that is a layer that's visible. If I click on this square, you'll see that there was another image, a sunburst behind it that's not being used anymore, so we're going to go ahead and click to hide that. And if I want to rename it, I'll just double click. Just going to put in here unused starburst. And I'm going to rename a couple more layers while I'm here. And this is the green leaf from the apple, so I'll rename that as well. You can also press enter to accept the change. This is the stem on the apple. And this is the actual group for the apple. Now by clicking on this arrow, you're going to see additional layers that are part of that group, and then to either expand or collapse. Now, if you're not sure what part of the layer this is referring to, what you could do is just temporarily move it. Now, this is the actual words color and learn. So it's named color and learn, but I want to actually get to the oval. So let me just continue on. Okay, so this is the actual oval. And the way I know is if I just temporarily like resize it or something, I'm just going to click Control Z to undo that. Then I know that that's the oval around the text. So I'm going to rename this to oval around color and learn. Okay, and this here. Okay, so this is the actual crayon wrapper. So I'll rename that as well. Okay, so I've gone through most of the layers and renamed them. So before making any changes, I highly recommend that you make a copy. This way your original file is preserved and you'll be making changes to the copy of the file. So to make a copy, you'll click File, Save as PSD, and then you're going to navigate to the folder where you'd like to save your file. Enter your file name and click Save. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to change is I'd like to enhance the crayon. I would like to change the color of the text inside the oval. I may want to enhance the oval and see what I can do for the special effects of this image. So first I want to get to color and learn, and I can see here that this is the text box. So the easiest way I found to change the color or even the font was once you have that layer selected, select this capital T, lower t for character, and then you can change the size here and any of these other options. I'm going to change the color by clicking on this color box, and then you could do many things. You could put the hex code in, you can select from one of these colors, you could just click and move the circle to another area. Now I do want to make it a bit darker, close to black, and I can also click down in here if I want to select solid black, which is 6 zeros in the hex code. While I'm here, if I wanted to change the font, right now it's Comic Sans, I could click on this down arrow. And I want to keep it pretty plain. I'm just going to select this ABZ and it changed it slightly. You can also italicize and so forth. When finished, click OK and then click the character icon again to collapse that window. Okay, so next I want to add a little bit of flair to this oval, and I did that through a pattern. So the way I did that was for the oval, I right clicked and then I selected pattern overlay. It defaulted to this probably because that's the last pattern overlay I used, but you can experiment with the different patterns by clicking here, and there's not that many, but I actually found one that matched pretty close with the original color. So the next change I want to make is I decided I wanted to go with the darker color for this yellow rectangle down in here and make some changes to it. So here's the changes that I'm about to make. I resized the rectangle, I changed the background to green, and I also added another text box here in the center. So let's make that change. So I'm clicking to select that rectangle. So there's actually two rectangles. I'll click here on the layer and you could see that this is the yellow one and this is the outer one. So I'm going to hide the yellow one. I really just want to keep one rectangle, change the color to green, and also resize the rectangle. So first let's change the color, and I'll right click on effects, and this time I'm going to select cover overlay. So it defaulted to black, probably because black was the last color I selected when they changed the font color here on the crayon. So I'm going to select this color box, and then I'm going to use this bar here to move to a green, and I want to stay right around here and select something just a little bit lighter. So from there you can put the hex code in, you could move this dot around like I mentioned before, or you can click on one of these preset colors. I'm going to leave that green for now and click OK. The other thing I want to do is apply a drop shadow, so that's just a matter of checking this box. and now the drop shadow is applied. I'm going to click OK. And I also ended up removing plus along with the orange rectangle. And I also removed the word and, which I felt like it was getting a little bit too cluttered. So I wanted to make it a little bit more cleaner and easier to read. So for the and text box, so just hide that. And then for the plus, same, you can just hide. If you decide later you want to just totally delete it, just right click and select delete. And click on the rectangle, hide that as well. Okay, so next I need to resize the rectangle to make room for the additional text box. I decided to move letter tracing down in the bottom here. So I ended up just kind of moving this down so I could edit it. And the purple, I'm just going to hide that as well. So I also replaced the white image in the background, which I will do shortly. Okay, so coloring and then my subtitle and then the word activity fun, I changed to white text. I felt like that was going to show up better on the green. So click activity fun and then select character. And I'm going to change that to white. And select it from there. And while I'm here, I'm also going to downsize it and change the font. And I'll go with something plain. Let me just try this. Okay, I'm going to use the ABZ again. And you can downsize it two ways. You can change the size by selecting this down arrow and moving this bar over, or you can actually take the handles and then manually adjust it. Okay, and then I want to move the whole text box over. I also wanted to make a little bit of room on the right for the apple. I need to move activity fun over, and I also need to move coloring over as well and allow some room for the second text box. Now, when you grab hold of a text box or an image, you can drag it, and you can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move the image as well. Now, coloring is not actually a text box, it's an image. So if I select it from here, and then I'm going to use my left arrow on my keyboard, that's if you want to nudge it more slightly, but if you want to move it a little faster, then you want to take hold of it. Now just be careful, because sometimes when you click, it takes hold of another layer. So I'm going to go back to that, and actually let me just do it this way. Let me just do that and then resize, and I'm going to give a look on here. Okay, so I'm going to move this down. Whoops, wrong image. Okay, I'm using my down arrow. So now I selected the letter tracing text box, and I want to change it to letter and word tracing like you see here. Okay, now once I move it over on the green, it's behind it. So here's a way to move an image in front of another image. So letter tracing needs to be moved up. So I'm going to move it up over. And let's see if that did it. So that did it. So now this is going to go right here. And I want to edit the text. So I'm just going to double click on the text. Wrong text box. Sometimes you will have to move to another area. Because if there's so many layers, sometimes it's just a little tricky getting to the layer. So let me just move it to another area where I can get to it. Okay, and then double click to edit the text, and then type what you like. Now, I definitely need to make it a little smaller, so let's just resize it this way. And I see a typo. I'm going to fix that in a second. I'm going to move this. Okay, and then once you have that selected, you could move that here. And I want to downsize that just ever so slightly. Okay, and then activity fun, we're just going to move that upward slightly, nudge it. Okay, so the couple more changes that I want to make are, I want to move the apple up here, and I also want to replace the image of the white tracing paper. Now the way I did that was first to find that layer. So this is the tracing page example. And then what you could do is open that image up wherever you have prepared it, and then just copy and paste it right into here, and I'll show you what I mean. I saved it as a JPEG, and then I'm just going to select Control C, copy to clipboard, flip back over to my design, and then I'm just going to select Control V to paste. Okay, so it's pasted, and I need to put it in place behind the other objects, and then I need to ultimately remove or hide the original white image in the background. So I'm going to enlarge that a bit, and now to rotate any image, just place your cursor on the top, not on the top handle, but like above it, and you'll see this curved double arrow, and then you're going to rotate with your mouse. Okay, so I want to get it in line just about right here, and the size is just about right. And now I'm going to use my left arrow to move it over. I would say select the layer that you're working with first, because it's going to put it in that position in your layers, so then you wouldn't have to like drag it up or down to move it behind or in front of other objects. So this is the new page. So I'm double clicking. I'm going to call that new tracing page image. And then the old one I'm going to hide. The next change I want to make is I want to move the apple up and adjust the eyes and the eyebrows and the smile, because the apple looks a little sad here. So after I changed it here, I thought the apple looked a little happier. So I'm going to make that change. This was a little tricky because the apple and the eyes and mouth and all weren't all together, so I had to find those layers. So there is an apple group, but if I move this, you're going to see that it's not grouped together with the other objects. So what you can do is then select multiple objects, and the way to do that would be to first make sure that you have renamed the layers. Now in this case, not all the layers are renamed. Let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and renamed, so you could see these are the dots, the white dots in the eyes. This is the right eyebrow. This is the right eye and the smile, and this is the left eye. So I'm going to just select one layer and then hold the Shift key down if they are layers next to each other, or hold the Control key down if they are layers in different spots, they are not next to each other. So I'm holding down the Shift key, and I'm going to click on the other layers. Okay, so now if I take hold, it's everything except, okay, everything except the stem and the leaf. So let me grab that so it's just easier to move everything. Okay, so in addition to those layers, I'm also going to hold the Shift key down. Okay, and now everything is selected, the leaf and the stem. Now when I move it up, okay, everything is together. Now I also want to adjust everything except the apple, the eyes, the eyebrows, and the mouth. Okay, so then at this point, I'm going to select all the features on the apple face, which includes the white dots. I'm holding down the Shift key, the right eyebrow, and so forth. Okay, so now I'm going to move everything upward. Okay, and that's pretty close to how I did it yesterday. This is what it looks like, and it just takes a little bit of playing around. Okay, so the next change we're going to make is to change the blue star and replace it with a 3D gold star that I found in Canva. Now, this would require that if the star had a background, that you remove the background. So I used Canva Pro to remove the background, and I saved the star with a transparent background. So let's try to copy it first. I want to also show you a second way to import a new image on your design. So here's the star here, and I'm going to select Control C for copy, and now I'm back into my design, and I select the image first that I want to replace so that it's in that position in your layers, and select Control V. Okay, so see how it didn't paste the transparent background? Let's do it a different way. So instead, I'm going to select File, Open. And by the way, see this little star here means I haven't saved it in a while. So just to be on the safe side, frequently save your file and then go ahead and replace it. So again, for the new image, I'm selecting File, Open, and I'm going to select the transparent image, and make sure you'll see the little checkered background, and that signifies that it's transparent. And now that I've opened it and it's already selected, now when I select Control C and return back to my design, I'll select Control V, and now it has pasted it with a transparent background. So that's another way to import an image. Now, once it's selected, go ahead and rename the layer, and then you're going to move it in the position of the original star image. And I want to downsize it and rotate it. And move it over top of the blue star. And I'm going to just have that a little higher. And now I want to hide the blue star. And I want to grab the text box, which says for kids 1 to 5. I want to change that to black text. So I'm going to select character and select the color box and then change it to black. And click OK. And move that in the center, and I want to enlarge it slightly. See how that looks? Okay, now the one last thing I wanted to show you was how to save or export your file to a different file format. So in my case, I want to save it as an image file. To save your file as a different file format, you're going to click File, Export As, and then you have these choices, and in this case I'm going to save it as a JPEG file. And when you do, there are some other options that you want to look at and make sure that everything is on point, and then click Save. And now my file has been exported to that other file format. So overall, I'm very happy with the result in Photopea. I think it's a great free tool that you could use for creating and editing images as an alternative to Adobe Photoshop. Let me know in the comments if you use Photopea and what feature you like best. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and smash the like button, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss any videos. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.